I think there's a really good chance of a repeat winner this year. Philadelphia is loaded. They are also, extremely on the defensive side in particular, well coached with Vic Fangio. They get a new offensive coordinator this year. It's ironic because I think early in the season last year, Nick Sirianni looked at times like a bozo, honestly, coaching that team. Some of the decisions he made. They'll have a new offensive coordinator replacing Kellen Moore, but this is a good, deep football team heading into this year. You can't predict things like injuries, but I don't look at our team and think to myself, well, it's very obvious that we made significant strides towards Philadelphia. I still don't know what the defense is going to be. And if the defense opens up by giving up 130 to Tyrone Tracy and then another buck 42 to Josh Jacobs in week 2, and then Ashton Genty in week 3 goes for a buck 50, I'm concerned about that start. When I say I'm concerned, I'm just curious. I don't know what they'll be defensively. Defense changes so much year to year. But I do have a sense that if Philadelphia is healthy, they're going to be really good on defense again and really well coached again defensively. And, assuming Saquon Barkley stays upright and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and Jalen Hurts do too, Philadelphia's schedule looks brutal on paper, but so does Washington's. I'm going to actually answer the question. I think this has a really, really good chance of being a break the trend year in the NFC East, with Philadelphia going back-to-back and winning division titles. I certainly think Washington's the second best team in the division, because of the quarterback. And I do think that Washington has the best quarterback in the division. But I'll lean Philadelphia heading into the year, breaking the trend and repeating. I actually, don't want to discount the other two teams because I think they're capable, fully healthy. Of course, the issue with the New York Giants is, do they have a quarterback that's going to make a difference? They've got a decent roster. We've talked about that for a few years running, especially on defense. But is Russ Wilson or Jackson Dart or Jameis Winston, are they going to be much better than what they've had at quarterback? I'll say and lean no. Dallas, will Dak be healthy? Will their team be healthy? If they stay healthy for an entire season, the Cowboys should certainly be a threat to win more games than they lose, but I don't think enough to win the division. I'll go with, I think Philly's got a good chance to break the trend and repeat. Max, what do you think before we get to phone lines?
It's a great question. Because of course the Eagles are going to be the odds-on favorite, like the number one pick team, and the Commanders rightfully second. But you mentioned the Commanders' win total when they won the division was 4.5. And I'm not saying that the New York Giants are a threat, but I am saying that the Dallas Cowboys have very much improved their roster going into this next year. So I think they're definitely a team to watch out for. Well, yes, absolutely. Eagles 1, Commanders 2, but Dallas is not as distant of a third as I think a lot of people would like to believe.
I'm looking at something right now. I mentioned that the last 3 division titles for Washington, 12, 15, and 20. The one they were picked to finish last in the division, and they went from, by the way, last place to first place in those 4 seasons. In 99, they were picked to finish third in the division. So 99, Dallas and the Giants were both picked ahead of them to finish 1-2 in the division. So Washington's last 4 division titles, they were picked last 3 times and third the other time before they won the division. Now, if you go back to the division title that came before 99, that was 91. They were picked to win the division in 91. when they went 14-2 and won the Super Bowl. All right, 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. I think all of us as Washington fans, as NFC East fans, and to a certain degree historians, understand this incredible run of 2 decades of not having a repeat champion. Will this year be the year that the trend is broken and Philadelphia repeats? Yes or no? And if they don't repeat, who wins the division? Let's start with our guy Ross in Tampa. Ross, go ahead.
Kevin Sheehan, what's good in the hood?
What's up, Ross? How you been, man?
I'm doing real good, man. You know what's crazy about that 2020 season? You probably already know this. If we lose to Philly at Lincoln Financial, 6-10 New York Giants, they win the division and they're hosting a playoff game.
That's correct.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But,
would have been the worst division-winning record in the history of the league.
I was kind of rooting for that because I knew we weren't going to go far if we did beat Philly. But, I mean, that was just a whole wild season for obvious reasons. And I'm just as old as Washington's Super Bowl drought. So when I first started watching football full-time, the division setup was the way it is today. I had no clue the Cardinals was in the division until my mother-in-law gave me a book about the history of the Redskins, which I thought was insane. Like, there's nothing east about the Cardinals. But
the Cardinals were a big Washington and Dallas, St. Louis, Washington, St. Louis, some memorable games in the 70s and 80s, man. And then, when they moved to Arizona, they never really had a competitive team when they were in the NFC East in Arizona. I don't think they ever won the division. Again? What'd you say?
When did they move to Arizona?
They moved to Arizona in 89, maybe something like that. 88, right, 89. I'm looking at actually the list. They actually won the division at 9-7 when they were in Arizona in 1998. So they no, my fault. That's not true. That is not true. They never won the division in Arizona. They won it twice in St. Louis in 1974 and 75. 98, the Cowboys won it. Okay. Go ahead, Ross, though. What do you think?
I think the same thing as you guys. Like, the only thing that could stop the Eagles, and yeah, I don't want to be on my Dennis Green stuff like Kendall and crowning the Washington. But I think if they do win, it's because Philly self-imploded. Sirianni does what Sirianni does, or injuries like you mentioned. Outside of that, I think they do win. But there's something really important that I got to get out here. Regardless of who wins the NFC East this year, when that crown is given to whatever team, the Indiana Pacers, Paulie, I know you listen, they are going to be your national reigning defending NBA Finals champions. Pacers in 6. I don't care if it's Bo Nix or Jalen Brunson on the floor. We're going to mess around and win the East, Kevin. And it's going to be a boring market at NBA Finals.
Thanks, Ross. Appreciate that.